Hey everybody, welcome back to the U.S. Soccer Podcast for a loaded episode. I am David Goss alongside Alejandro Bedoya, and boy, do we have a show from you. We are going to explore soccer at every level, all the way from the U.S. Boys U-15 national team through to our two most recent champions in USL 2 and NPSL. We've got a lot to talk about. We are going to talk to the Vermont Green sporting director, Adam Pfeifer. We are going to talk to Hickory FC's head coach, Carlos Rubio, on their two championships. And then we're going to talk to Ross Brady as the U-15 boys national team goes down to Costa Rica and starts Concacaf championships this week. Ale, a lot to do, a lot to hit on. And I'm excited because these two teams in Vermont Green and Hickory FC have qualified to play in the U.S. Open Cup next year, and they might get a chance to get on the field with Alejandro Bedoya himself.
They might, but no, what an incredible story for those two clubs and teams, organization, the communities, really. I mean, talk about growing the sport in our country. To see those teams in Burlington and Hickory be able to, showcase what they're all about is a great story.
Yeah, some of what has happened, I think, is stuff maybe we didn't think was possible. Thousands of fans at lower division games across the country. Ballard FC, El Farolito themselves, the two that lost in the championship, they have sold out their buildings. El Farolito, of course, have been one of the great lower division teams in the Open Cup over the last few years. Historically, they won it before the professional era. They are part of the fabric of soccer in the United States, and they are a huge part of it. Speaking of the Open Cup, though, we are back into 2025 U.S. Open Cup action. So for anyone who forgot, there is a makeup game coming between the Philadelphia Union, your club, and the New York Red Bulls. That is next Wednesday on August 13th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's in Philadelphia, so if you're in the area, come out. If not, you can watch it on CBS and Paramount Plus online. And that quarterfinal matchup is for a chance to make it to the semifinals against Nashville SC. If you were to win, or when you win, whichever one we want to do there, would travel to Nashville for that semifinal matchup. On the flip side, the Red Bulls would host Nashville SC. Ale, you've never won this. What would it mean? What's the conversation like around the team about winning a U.S. Open Cup?
Yeah, look, I think we just talked about and alluded to some of the history of Open Cup, right? This is the oldest ongoing national soccer competition in our country, right? And so it means something to a lot of folks. And whenever there's a trophy on the line, I always say this, you compete for it and you want to raise it up. You want to be the winner because we're competitors at the end of the day. So I think the way we've approached this season, is one where the way we play, right, is one where you're all hands on deck, in your face, and we're going to try to win this competition. No doubt about that. It got rained out last time, but hopefully this next week, I know we're going to put all our eggs in the basket and go for it. And I unfortunately played in one Open Cup final, and sadly, we lost to Houston Dynamo that year. So I want to get back there. I want to get back to a final, and wherever we end up playing, be hoisting that trophy at the end of it.
During the rain delay, do you do the thing where one person has to juggle with everyone and get into the garbage can?
No, I didn't. I was one of those guys taking pictures, as a PA rep and stuff, and seeing, trying to protect the players or what's in the best interest of the players, that type of guy, But seeing our field get soaked up, it was incredible. That rainstorm was nuts.
You mentioned you always want to win when you step on the field. You want to win trophies as a professional. It being Philly Red Bulls, is there a little bit extra in this one, being a knockout game between these two clubs that know each other so well?
Yeah, it's a great rivalry that we have, but we've done pretty well, in recent years, I would say, against Red Bull. But every game is a tough game. They're also similar style of play, and they're going to want and compete and also try to advance to the next round, because I know for them as well, there's an incentive. They get to host the next game. For us, if we win, we'd have to travel, but regardless, it's the Red Bull, right? And for our fan base and for us as players, you want to take them down at any chance you get. So, yeah, we're going to be definitely vying to get to the next round. Interestingly enough, ironically, actually, the last time we were supposed to play the Red Bull at home, we had to play them the weekend right after, and that's the same thing here. So, we had to play them home in the Cup game, and then we play them away in Red Bull. So, back-to-back games, no matter what, it's Red Bull. You want to get them. You're going to get the best of them. So
I was at that Open Cup final against Houston that you talked about. I was at the 2 in Philadelphia as well. That unfortunately didn't go Jim Curtin and Philadelphia Union's way, which became a bit of the legacy. One thing I tell everyone, there is nothing like a final. Having a soccer game where you don't have to talk about standings and outside sources and outside issues. It's just, can this team step on the field and win? And I was lucky enough to experience that this weekend up in Vermont. I was at the Vermont Green Ballard FC championship game, and we're going to chat with some people who have lived through it over the last week. So let's go to our interviews right now. Well, it was an epic weekend of soccer across America at many levels, and we cover all of those levels here at the U.S. Soccer Podcast, from the national teams to the youth national teams, all the way through NWSL, MLS, and so much more. But right now, we're going to focus up north on USL 2 and the 2025 undefeated USL 2 champion Vermont Green. And to do so, we have the sporting director of the team, Adam Pfeifer, someone Ale knows very well, I've known very well, and I just saw in person a few days ago. What's up, Adam?
Actually, lots up right now. We've got a lot going on up here in Vermont, but all good things.
So winning the championship over Ballard FC on Saturday night at the close to an undefeated season, the first championship in Vermont Green history. It's obviously something you've thought about a lot over the last 4 or 5 years as this team was created and started to play. What has the reaction to winning been, and was it what you thought it would be like?
Honestly, it was probably what I felt it would be like. Like, this thing's been growing here in Vermont for the last 4+ years. I've lived here for about 10 years, and there really is a vibrant soccer community. So when this club started, we felt pretty confident that it was going to be supported in a pretty special way. So I'm not surprised at the reaction, but it's been incredible.
Adam, you talked a little bit about the community there. UVM men's soccer team, they're coming off the back of winning the national championship. I think I just read they're the #1 preseason polls ranked nationally. And now you guys, Vermont Green, winning. We're just winning now. Can we declare Burlington an official soccer town? Like, tell me a little bit more about Burlington for those who don't know what it's like up there in Vermont.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a soccer town, and the state is a soccer state. I think the community loves the game. I think they love the sort of international kind of coming together of all different cultures that our game kind of embodies. I think it's one of the most special things that we in the soccer world get to be a part of. Like you just said, Ali, like your parents are down in Colombia right now, but you've got roots here in the U.S. and New Jersey and in South Florida, and I think that's one of those things that's just so special about the sport. But I think it's something that Vermonters love and something that they appreciate and can put their arms around.
So you played collegiately at a school called Boston College, which not a lot of people have heard of, so we can skip over that pretty quickly. And I've heard back then you played in USL 2 and maybe won a championship yourself as a player. Is that correct?
Yeah, we actually won back-to-back it was the PDL at the time with the Cape Cod Crusaders, so I think it was 2002 and 2003 that we won. So yeah, some amazing experiences as a player at that level. And then, hey man, you don't have to talk bad about Boston College. I know that you're from across the town, a Northeastern guy, but there's a lot of connections. I worked there. My sister went to school there. Ollie's brother played for us at Northeastern with Brian Ainscough. He was at the game the other night. So a lot of connections. I don't think the blood's as bad between Northeastern and BC as it is maybe BC, BU.
Yeah. At least it's not BU. If it was BU, I don't think this interview would be happening. Ale, I don't want to speak for you. I don't know your vibes against BU, but I don't know if you have Northeastern hate as well.
Yeah, no, that was everybody at BC's backup school, right? Especially when it comes to hockey and all that.
Yeah, for sure. We actually had a BU guy on the team who started the final for us, Diego Rivetti. Did a fantastic job, and they've got a good program there with Kev Nyland, the coach there, and heading in a good direction.
Well, tell me a little bit about, you're the sporting director there at Vermont Green, right? And you alluded to earlier how the community there really kind of comes together. But looking at your roster, the makeup of it is, you do have a lot of international guys. And how do you go about, compiling together a roster, putting the team together? I'm sure a lot of those international guys, when they think America, or they don't know about Burlington or Vermont even. So,
Yeah.
what's your job like there? Convince them to come
Yeah.
over.
I mean, that part is difficult. Our team was more international based this year than the previous years. I think, a lot of that was like, we had 7 or 8 guys that we had committed to us that were going to be coming this summer that signed MLS Next Pro contracts. So that kind of, we had guys committed November, December, and then that kind of, comes about, late December and January after the super draft and all that. So we lost a bunch of players, and those were American-based players, a lot of those guys that went that route. And so for us, there's so many different cycles to kind of recruiting for USL2 because, as as a player, like, those guys are in preseason right now, today. They're all, Division I preseason started. And so, the coaches of those programs get pretty protective of those players. I think rightfully so in some ways, in other ways, we do a really good job of rotating the team. And so that's part of our recruiting pitch is that we're going to bring in, a big squad, and we're going to take care of guys and give, aspiring professionals that are still in college the best possible preparation and the best possible experience, and they get some really high quality games that matter, right? Like there's a lot of people at those games, and so there's a different kind of pressure than just playing, in a park somewhere with 50 people there. And so there's a different kind of development that I think we are able to offer. But yeah, the team was very international this year. We, a lot of guys that are, over the age of 21. So, a lot of that is just relationships with college coaches, different agents / advisors that we work with to get guys up here. Yeah, I mean, the squad this year was like 40 plus guys. Some guys, get pulled back into summer school and stuff like that, and then replace them with guys like Ian Abbey and Maxi Kissel. And Maxi scored the winning goal.
Union guy, Ian Abbey.
Yeah, Ian Abbey and Ryan Zelafro, both Union guys that we signed later on in the season.
So this was one of the questions I was going to ask, which is from 2002 to now, the landscape, I assume, has shifted a bit in USL2's reality of there was no MLS Next Pro back then. There was barely an MLS at the time. There was like 10 teams. Now you've got 30. How different is the world from when you played in it to the one you're working in now?
I mean, everything about soccer is different than it was in 2002, 2003. I mean, the carrot for young players is massive. I remember, the guys that were playing, for the Revolution at the time, when I was a kid, we're living with host families and things like that. So we're not in the same world at all. These players now are far more professional than the players that I was involved with with the exception of guys like Troy Perkins. I don't know if you guys remember him, but he was pretty locked in at that age. But
he's a coach now. It makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, we just weren't like the same in terms of how we took care of ourselves, in terms of the sort of year-round commitment that these players have. Like guys, visibly got out of shape in the off season during college when I was in college. That doesn't happen anymore. These guys are much different now. So everything's changed. It's there's a real pathway for young players now, and so the commitment level rises, and it's a fun time.
How important is this pre-professional setup that USL2, and we're going to talk, of course, NPSL as well. How important is it to that pathway?
My opinion is that it is important for the college players. Obviously, it helps kind of keep them chugging along. I mean, I don't know, Ali, how many games did you play last year? Or in a year where you were an international, like what was the most games you ever played?
Yeah, we played about like 54, 55. It was a lot of games.
Right, and so you have these young players that want to be professionals, And the problem is that the college season now, like most teams play like 16 regular season games, and then you go into, playoffs. So if you're a team like UVM and you run, you go 2 conference playoff games, a semi, a final, and then all the NCAA tournament games, it's like 22 games. Like, you need more meaningful games than that if you're a 18 to 23-year-old, man trying to be a professional. If you're trying to keep up with Alejandro, who's playing 54 games or whatever it was.
It's a lot easier now, at my age.
Yeah. But so yeah, I think from that standpoint, like it is really important. It is too bad that the seasons kind of are back to back and that there is no kind of break. But I think if these guys are managed properly over the summer and then managed properly during during their preseason, so to speak, ideally I would think that a lot of the guys that played big minutes for us all summer probably are not going into double sessions right now, right? Like they're probably, being held out of a session here and there and a run here and there and things like that. So, I do still think that there's a really valuable place for it, but we'll see what happens with the NCAA and this 21st century model. For me personally, I would still like to see that happen, even though it might affect us adversely. I'd still like to see, college soccer be as relevant as possible, and having that season run 6-7 months would be a big difference from the 3 months that Ali and I played in.
Is there a dream one day to have a Vermont heavy starting lineup for Vermont Green? Like, is that the goal of what this team can sort of do for the community?
Yeah, I mean, right now we don't have any players from Vermont, right? And so that's a big part of the conversation for us, for our future as a club, is when do we get involved with real grassroots soccer, and start, being a part of developing players at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. Right now we're not involved in that. I think we all know from being involved in soccer just how ugly youth soccer can be. People get very territorial, and so right now we're kind of a neutral club from that standpoint. But I do think that at some stage we do owe it to our community to invest and give back into at a grassroots level. And so, one day it would be amazing to have Vermont players in the team. We're not there right now. We have University of Vermont players in the team, but hopefully in the future.
Adam, just building off of that note, I think community is huge, right? Especially in soccer and growing the game here in our country. Can you harp a little bit about what the game day experience is like, or what the support has been like in Burlington and in Vermont? I think you mentioned you don't really have a player from Vermont per se, but the club was built on and founded on certain principles, values, right?
Yes.
Vermont Green, right? Sustainability, environmental justice. How has the community really come around in support for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's been there really since day one. I think our first game, there were 1,001 people there, at the game supporting us, which at the time felt like it was crazy. And then honestly, it just grew and grew and grew. We kind of thought that it would, start high and then dip down, and that's not what happened. Things have gone the opposite direction and have just continued to build and build and build to the point where, the last game, so for the final, I think the game sold out in seconds, right? 2-3 seconds, whatever that was. But they said there were 7,500 people still logged in trying to buy tickets. Each individual user, that's 2.5 tickets is kind of the average. So you figure you easily could have sold 20,000 tickets to a game here in Vermont, which is a state of 300,000 full-time residents. It's wild. So yeah, I mean, the support's been amazing. A lot of it does have to do with, the club's mission, like you said, environmental justice and sustainability. Those are things that are very important to Vermonters. They're things that people can really put their arms around. And so, the club's identity and the branding and all that is obviously genius and fits really well with our community. Matt Wolf is incredible. Everybody's familiar with his work in the soccer world. And then, there's David's buddy that he grew up with, Sam Glickman, who's done an unbelievable job, and Pat Inferno, who's been a name in U.S. soccer media for a long time. So they knew what they were doing. And fortunately, we've been able to have a really good product on the field as well. And it's all kind of come together nicely, and everybody's pulling in the same direction. So sport's been incredible.
You mentioned it, the amount of people outside the stadium, maybe more than inside for the final game, 2,500 inside, maybe 3,000 outside. People started lining up around 8 a.m. for a 7 p.m. kickoff.
Yeah, I got texts at 7 o'clock in the morning that there were people there. So yeah, crazy.
What is the craziest story you've heard coming out of it now of people making an attempt? I heard there were viewing parties up and down the state in theaters and auditoriums and bars.
Yeah, my understanding is that there were. I haven't seen, any of that yet. Tried to spend a little bit of time with the family the last couple of days. Yeah, I mean, there's just countless stories. I think you were probably more aware of what was going on than I was, David, to be honest. Like, I was pretty, locked into what was going to be going on in the field and, different scenarios and stuff like that were going through with the coaching staff. So I'll be honest, I missed some of that, but it was pretty insane just having people all around and the couches that were out on the hill the morning of the game. I was like, people are not messing around right now. They want to be a part of this and see it. So we definitely got a sneak peek into what it was going to look like, though, with what happened with UVM, and then the Open Cup last year. The Open Cup games in 2024 were that was awesome, and we saw what kind of a sneak preview of what this was going to be like. But it was like it all season. I mean, it was all season, and then just the support from our supporters group. How loud they are, how they've developed their own sort of unique thing there. That could be like a generational kind of thing, where some of these young kids that are getting involved in that kind of supporters culture at a young age, as opposed to a lot of people get involved when they're in their 20s and 30s. That could be from a generational standpoint. That to me was one of the most positive things that I saw this year, was just how that kind of grew. And how they were singing the entire game. That was special. That was it was a real atmosphere. It was it wasn't just people sitting on their hands like you experience in some stadiums. It wasn't like that. It was real support and pretty special.
Unbelievable. Epic scenes. If anyone hasn't seen it, go look up Vermont Green, go to their social media. It's across USL too, all of that. One to close you out on, though. Alejandro Bedoya is preparing to play in, I think, a U.S. Open Cup quarterfinal, which we'll talk about. You mentioned it. Vermont Green played in the Open Cup in 2024, knocked off professional soccer team for the first time. For now, I cannot read who qualifies, but I'm sure now that you've won, you will be in it for 2025. So that at least made it really simple for me. Just give us an idea for your club, for your community, what the U.S. Open Cup means and what sort of that opportunity, that moment, and what the competition represents.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have professional soccer here. We don't really have professional sports here. And so the opportunity to go, for me, I didn't play as a professional. So for me, the opportunity to, just from a selfish standpoint, to go against professionals and to beat them, and we weren't lucky, right? We had a good team that we put out there. Of current college players, and so that meant a lot, right? That was pretty special. We'll probably get that opportunity. I mean, we are in the Open Cup, both qualified, from our regular season, and then obviously winning the USL 2, we're in through that way as well. We already got confirmation of that, so we're excited to do it again. And it does mean a little bit more that the amateur teams get to go against a professional team, and it's not like another amateur team that we have to play to get to the professional team. We want to play against pros. That's what we want to be doing.
It's going to be awesome. I was there last year for the first game. You are 3-0 in the last games I've been to, all big games. So I will look for my plane ticket later that I know you'll have lined up for me. Maybe Ale will come along this time. No matter what, congratulations to Vermont. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to the whole club. And let's do this again when we head into Open Cup next year.
Awesome, David. Thank you. And I just have to say, I know Ali probably gets a lot of praise, but for me, being a BC guy, watching you and Charlie and Ruben, guys from that generation, watching what you did, watching you in 2014 was one of the most special things for me, personally. And also just, watching Charlie and everything that he did, leading up to to the 2010 World Cup. It's just you guys continue to make us proud. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that. I got a lot of respect for you. And, for those who don't know, my brother played under you at Northeastern, so he says hello. And, thanks for all you're doing, too, to continue to grow the game. Congratulations on your victory. And, hey, maybe, if I stick around, go up there for a trip in Burlington, I'd love to go up there and bring my family, because my wife would love it up there.
It's special.
She's
It's a
Norwegian,
special place.
Norway. So she's I don't know if you can say tree hug or whatever, but she's all one with the nature.
You can say it. It's all right. You can say whatever you want, Vermont.
I know you got a couple Norwegians on the team too, so hello to them.
Yep.
But fantastic run. Congratulations once again, and all the
Are we
best.
seeding a potential Des Moines Menace situation? Ale leads the Open Cup team out on the field.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
These
right.
guys did.
We'll circle back offline with this. But Adam, thanks for joining us.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Well, we had a chance to celebrate the scenes of what we saw in Burlington, Vermont this weekend with the USL 2 Championship for Vermont Green, but they were not the only champions this weekend. Now we have our next guest here, the head coach of Hickory FC, who also went undefeated, also won a championship this week of the NPSL in Carlos Rubio. Carlos, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Excited to speak a bit about our history.
So you didn't have the same scenes. You didn't get the home game. So you had to go on the road and ruin someone else's experience and then fly all the way back to North Carolina, Hickory, North Carolina, where you were all located. What has it been like since you won? What was the experience of doing it on the road and then celebrating and coming back home?
No, it was obviously when we saw that we had to fly to San Francisco for the game, we knew that it was going to be a tough, logistically, we knew it was going to be tough, but all credit goes to the club, the ownership, general manager, that made sure that we travel in the best way possible. It was super smooth, really easy for us. They located a place for us to practice, not on the match pitch where we play the final, but on a pitch nearby, and we were able to practice. Really nice hotels, fantastic food. So they gave us everything we needed to be ready for that match. Obviously, you would prefer to do it in front of your fans, but there is something special about spending 2 to 3 days together with the team after a long season, and I think that played a factor into that final for sure.
Carlos, let me ask you. You talked about the fans, how much it would have been special to do it in front of your fans, but this is only really your second season playing in the league. And so can you speak about what led to your guys' success so quickly, both on and off the field?
I think having the right people in the right place. Obviously, the owners are fantastic humans, but they've been in Hickory for a long time. So they know the right people. They have a lot of connections. They know how to run business, the club as a business as well, because they're very successful business owners or having positions on high hierarchies. So they've done the right things right since the first moment that I spoke with them. I knew they were the right people to work for. And obviously, Hickory needed something. Obviously, we're nearby Charlotte, an hour away, but we don't have a sports team other than the university. And obviously, during the summer, there is nothing to watch in terms of sport other than the crowd. That's the minor league baseball team that we have in town. So the city was craving for something, and I think we came in at the right time. And obviously, it goes without saying, winning helps. When you're winning and people get behind you, and from the get-go they start feeling the experience. People that might not have watched a soccer game in their life want to be part of something special. So it's been incredible. And the last game, the national semifinal, we broke record in attendance with over 6,000 people, and that is incredible.
Did you think 2 years ago when this started that would be the case? You are the head coach at the college as well, Leonore Ryan College, where you coach. That's where the team plays. Did you ever think you'd see 6,000 people there for a soccer game?
No, I would be lying if I said yes, because obviously football is huge. American football, Leonore Ryan is huge, a really good team, and they normally average those numbers. So to be able to not compete in a way, because you're not competing for fans, but to be able to put those numbers, it was something that we probably expected in maybe year 4, year 5, but certainly not in year 2. But it's been tremendous, the support from the community. And what I always say is not just the numbers, it's the actual support. We got a supporters club that when the game that we went against up in the conference final for 120 minutes, they did not stop on the drums, making noise, chanting. So it's just the quality of people that are in those stands as well.
Yeah, speaking about the supporters group and the amazing atmosphere that you've been able to draw there, looking back on this season, what would you say is the coolest moment when you think back?
Well, it's gonna be an odd one, and funny enough, we were talking about it on the bus the other day with the boys. Just what's been your favorite moment of the year, and naturally, you go to the national final, that final goal, the 3-1 from Tomas. You go back to the conference final when we scored in the 119th minute to win it. But for me, honestly, it was the session prior to the national final, that Friday session. We were a scenic training facility, and we finished with a game where all the camera people, the media department, they joined the players. Some of our players went in goal. Tony Pineda, Player of the Year, became the goalkeeper for that session. So just the joy that we had together and how much we enjoy being around each other. For me, that was the moment in which I left that session thinking we may lose, we might win, but they will never forget this. So that was really, really special.
You mentioned the scenic nature. It's not your home stadium, but I got to ask, Keyser Stadium, where you played the final, to me is like one of the coolest, most historic buildings in all of the U.S. It's over 100 years old in San Francisco. So to the league. What did you make of the experience of playing an El Farolito club that is one of the legendary clubs in the U.S. and playing at that facility?
No, obviously, when you walk into it, you see it in pictures and you see it's a grass field. You see how big is the pitch, but until you get in it, you don't really feel the history like you mentioned, like where it's located, where the locker rooms are located. Everything just tells you that the stadium has a lot of history and it's been around for a long time. The surface was fantastic. It allows us to play the brand of soccer that we want, that we enjoy. And then El Farolito were a fantastic host. It was a fantastic environment, and we had a lot of fans that travel. Not on the hundreds, but we got a few fans that travel, and having them so close to the bench, it was also quite nice for the environment.
And Carlos, speaking of history, you guys made history, right? Hoisting that trophy, winning a championship for Hickory FC. Give us some insight. Let us know how have the celebrations been like?
I mean, the next few hours after the match were tremendous, especially the moment on the 3-1. There were a lot of tears of joy when we scored that third one. Obviously, all of a sudden, then you're 3-2, and you're like, I thought this was gonna be done, and we have to still defend a couple more balls into our box. But just to give you a little bit, like you say, a little bit insight, Tomas Polacci scored the 3-2 against Ristosi the last week in the semifinals, and he got taken out by the goalkeeper and got injured. Tommy wasn't able to practice until that Friday before the final. Not even just jogging, stretching. He was not able to do anything with the ball. He came on the final, and then he scores. He's someone that's been with the team since the first match last year. So when that ball going in, they see a lot of tears from, including myself, the staff and myself hug, and there was a lot of emotions at that moment. So, and then after that, obviously there is a lot of joy. The guys loved it on the way back to the hotel. Then they had a good time in the hotel, and then getting back to Hickory on the next morning and seeing like about 40 people at 7:30 in the morning welcoming us with noise, flares. It was incredible.
I think people would guess this, but you're originally from Valencia, Spain. You're not from Hickory, North Carolina originally, but teams like this, we see the connection, you see the amount of fans. There's obviously a connection and a community that's been built. What should people from the outside know about Hickory, North Carolina? What should they know about soccer in this area? What is sort of this club representing?
Yeah, I mean, we always say that it's made of great people, this community, and the support that we had from, obviously, like I said, our ownership group and the outreach that we've been able to do to people that want to support sponsors has been tremendous. But it's a family environment. That's what we try to make sure that we're able to promote. If you see our matches, there's a lot of kids, just standing, waiting for our players to walk out into the locker room. And it takes us about 25 minutes to walk from the pitch to the locker room, just signing up to autographs and spending time with the kids. And it's the youth community. There's 3 clubs mainly in our county that have a lot of kids and playing soccer. And obviously having those kids come into the games and watching them with their parents, with their family, it is tremendous. So if I had to say anything about Hickory, it's a family environment. Like you mentioned, I'm not from around here. My wife is. Her family lives 45 minutes from Hickory. We made in Hickory, and I have a 18-month-old that I'd be more than happy to raise in Hickory. And I'm super proud that he's being able to experience this in this city. So raising a family in Hickory is incredible.
Final one for you. Winning this means you've qualified for the U.S. Open Cup next year, and that is a huge opportunity for a lot of teams in the lower divisions. And we like to keep teasing that potentially on the field against Alejandro Bedoya one day in the Philadelphia Union. But what do you make of what that experience will be like for this club? And do you have an idea of maybe a team that you'd love to see in that first round or two?
I mean, it's an incredible cup, right? It's had a lot of history. You had Farolito this past year making a run and thinking, could we do that? That would be incredible.
Yeah.
But you think like, oh, we just won. Let's take a few days, a few weeks to just rest and recover before we start thinking it's impossible. At the moment we get on that bus, we start thinking which players could we bring next year for the Open Cup, which of these guys will be interested or can we bring back to the Open Cup, and it's going to be an incredible experience. We're super excited to bring that cup to Hickory, to be able to represent the city on another competition. And which team I'd like to see. Obviously, I got a good friend playing from San Jose Earthquakes. So that would be a good one. I got one of our former.
Another trip on the West Coast, huh?
It worked out well this time. So we got an ex-player from Lenore Ryan playing One Knox on the USL One. One of our players potentially signed as well. So there's a lot of teams. And then obviously Charlotte FC is so nearby with so many fans. So that would be the easy one, right?
Yeah. Chills for the idea of undefeated champions going up against the local MLS team or any of those other squads.
Yeah.
Well, Carlos, David, on that point, let me ask Carlos this question then. I know he doesn't want to think too much far into the future, but we just recently spoke with the sporting director at Vermont Green FC, right? They won their championship as well. How about setting up a game, a friendly or something competitive between you guys and see who's the king of the summer?
We'd love to do it. I was speaking with one of our owners, which he's got a background on soccer, play himself, and obviously he's someone that loves the sport. And after the game, we were talking like the finalissima between the European champions and the South American champions that they've done a few times. So could we do that? That would be tremendous. Not just obviously they say, in PSA or USL2, which one is gonna be better? That is cool, but I don't know. It's just another game in which we both can represent the community. I think that would be incredible.
Yeah, more games to play, which would be awesome.
Yes.
More high quality soccer to watch. The finals this weekend were incredible. You talk about the drama, the fan bases, the moment. I think it shows the strength of the sport all across this country in so many different communities. And we appreciate you taking the time to join us here. And hopefully maybe we'll help you preview the Vermont Hickory friendly coming up at some point later in the future.
Thank you for having you both. It's been incredible to chatting with you about a little bit about our club, about our run this year. And like you say, we can make it happen, then we're up for it.
I love that.
Well, we've got a great interview now to talk about a big tournament coming up. So we have the Concacaf U-15 Boys Championships about to start in Costa Rica, August 2nd to August 10th. And the U.S. is going to be represented by the head coach here, Ross Brady, and his squad. Ross, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate the time.
Magic of television, we're doing this interview before you leave, so you're going to go from tropical to tropical. You're in Florida and you're headed to Costa Rica, so it's a tough life for you right now.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's good weather. So a bit hot today in Florida, but I think it'll hopefully be a little bit less hot in Costa Rica, but we'll see.
There's a lot of excitement. This group won their first championship at this level at the previous tournament. So a lot of expectations going into it. But before we dig into this team and this competition, we want to learn a little bit more about you. I know you originally born in Memphis, one of my favorite cities, and just curious about the soccer hotbed that was Tennessee and how you sort of got through into the game and into these ranks coaching with the Federation.
Yeah, no, so I had obviously played youth soccer in Memphis and everything for a couple of different clubs, Rowdy's Football Club, and then I don't even know if it's around anymore, but the old Germantown Fury. It might be I think it turned to Mid-South Football Club for a bit as well, and Germantown Legends or something. So I'm not sure what the club is called now, but yeah, I went on to play a little bit of college soccer at an NAI school called Lambeth University. And then from there, pretty much kind of started coaching pretty young, to be honest with you. So started even while I was still playing, working with one of the local youth clubs and everything called the Jackson Wolves at the time. And from there, I kind of just knew that I wanted to get into coaching and into youth development and everything. So from there, I kind of went to worked in college soccer for a little bit at Hastings College and NIU in Chicago, and then from there, really kind of got in deep with youth development with Chicago Fire. So I was with Chicago Fire for I think 9 seasons total, working at pretty much every age group there, and yeah, that was a great experience. And then while I was with Chicago Fire, I got an opportunity to also work with our youth national team program with the U-17s as an assistant coach with Gonzalo Segarra. So the group that just went to U-17 Concacaf, actually in Costa Rica as well. So I spent a lot of time in Costa Rica this year. But yeah, started working with the Federation as an assistant there. And then, got this opportunity in January to join as the 15s coach. So yeah, that's kind of a shortened version of how I got here.
That's great, Ross. It's a very interesting pathway to your coaching career, and now that you've worked with across the board in the youth ranks at this specific age group, the U15 boys now U.S. team, how do you see yours and the coaching staff's roles?
Yeah, I mean, listen, they're obviously still in that development phase, and it's a critical time as well because you have a big role in maturation as well. So you get some guys that are very late in maturation, or maybe some guys that are a little bit early. So finding that balance, but really I think just when looking at the players is trying to figure out what those exceptional qualities that they can bring to the table. And for our staff, it's how we can still try to develop in other areas, but really so that they can showcase those exceptional qualities. So that's really our job as a coaching staff, is to try to put them in an environment where they can showcase that, I think.
For young players, I know there's the push and pull and balance of trying to win and trying to develop, and sometimes they go together and other times they don't. What is the conversation for your staff with this group going into a tournament like this, and sort of what are the stated goals of what you want to have accomplished when you leave on August 10th?
Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously I actually came in the middle of this cycle, so I think these guys have had, I think this is their 6th camp total as a 2010 U15 cycle. I had 3 camps prior to this tournament, so this will be the 4th. So obviously it's still focusing on what we tried to work on and achieve prior to this, but yeah, at the end of the day, we're going to an international tournament, and we want to compete and show what we worked on previously. So yeah, it's always this idea to, okay, do we go with development or winning? But for me, I think it's both still. We can still try to go out. I think that's okay. We can still go out and try and talk about winning and competing, just not to but at what cost? You know what I'm saying? We're still we still want to show what we can do and what we want to try to do in the U.S. way.
Yeah, Ross, talk to me a little bit about, at this age group, like you said, the maturity levels of certain players, they're in different phases and different parts. Or those are, more athletic, powerful, stronger. Maybe some are more tactically astute than others. But what is your process like as a head coach overseeing, the whole group? Well, how does this team come together, working across, shorter resumes, of course, with all these young players?
Yeah. No, listen, it's obviously very different. I'm still adjusting because being a youth national team coach and seeing these guys maybe once every month or two, and you have players that obviously come in and out all the time at the youth national team, but also at our senior national team. So working in a national team environment is obviously very different than a club environment where you're seeing them more day to day. But I think it really starts with the player. And before we can even talk about going on the field and speaking about tactics, it's really just like getting to know them as a person first. I think you kind of have to start there. And once you kind of like engage with that and you kind of understand that relationship with them, understand what, again, like I said, what are their key qualities, but then how do they see themselves as well? And when you have an idea about how they see themselves and you have a better understanding as a coach, how you can maybe try to help them, because kids, they learn in different ways as well. So once you kind of establish that relationship, I think this is the biggest focus for us, especially in the youth national teams at U.S. Soccer, is putting the player first and trying to get to know them. And then, after that, the stuff on the field will follow.
On the field, you mentioned the U.S. way. Is there a top-down style that you are fitting into? You are obviously sort of the point of the spear for these players in terms of entering the federation's program.
Yeah. No, so the U.S. way is obviously just it's a framework that we use with four areas, the player being the center, and then you have the culture, the environment, and the game. And so these are things that we have that try to influence them and help guide us, but also guide the players. You obviously have a game model in there and certain game ideas. So when you talk about like the different age categories as well, so you might, throughout the different age categories, 17 and above, like maybe you have different tactics and different ways of trying to do things or different systems, but the game idea and the principles are all the same. So we use the exact same U.S. way framework, the same as the other youth teams. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the big things that everyone always talks about in their experience, Ale played at these levels. I did not, but is sort of that first introduction to international tournaments, youth World Cups. They always say like it's the only way to mimic that experience. So how do you now, for these U15s, handle introducing them into, you're in a camp, the pressure, the overseas experience, dealing with, Costa Rica is a little different than some of the other Concacaf nations, but water and food and all of these types of things.
Yeah, no, so for sure at the U15 category, this Concacaf Championship is really the first international, I would say, tournament experience for these players. But in their clubs and their environments, I would say starting at the U15 level, when you guys see with MLS Next, like a lot of these guys would have just been in that tournament. So they maybe don't have that same experience at the international level. They'll gain that as we go into this tournament. We'll see what that looks like. But even in their own club environments, a lot of them were already kind of in at least somewhat of an environment like this prior. So it hopefully won't be too unfamiliar to them. But I guess we'll see when we get down there.
And speaking of the international tournament, now you're getting ready to head out to Costa Rica. Yeah. For those who may not be familiar following, the youth ranks and youth players, could you give us some insights, give us a scouting report about the tournament? Right. You guys are getting ready to face in the group Saudi Arabia, Costa Rica, and Canada.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about those teams, how they play? Do they mimic a little bit maybe their first teams, the A team, or is it, what types of players do they have on their teams? Are they on?
Sure. Yeah, no, listen, to be honest with you, there's not too much information out there, especially at the 15s category. Like every nation, I would say, is like a little bit different. Some have done programming, like we obviously played Mexico, for example, earlier in February. So they've been doing programming for a little bit at the U15 category, where other nations maybe not as much. Maybe they've only met one time prior to doing this. So to be honest with you, at the 15s, we don't do too much scouting. We really try to focus on us and focus on our process. And even when we go down there, we'll obviously look at the other teams and see how the tournament kind of plays out. but we don't put too much emphasis on the 15s on that from like a scouting standpoint. We really try to focus on the qualities that we bring to the table as the U.S. And I would say we'll look at the opponent, but it's more for our own like coaching process internally, I would say.
In danger of giving every other team an advantage that doesn't exist for you, can you give us an idea of what this group looks like? Can you give the fans an idea of maybe names to watch out for or things to look for when the games are up?
Yeah, no, look, I think you have several guys that have been involved in 4, 5, 6 camps now with this group. So you have 2 players that have signed with their MLS club. So Robert Turdine with the Chicago Fire is one who's he's a midfielder and plays also as a forward option. So he's done quite well. And then you have also Vinny Garcia is also a homegrown player with LA Galaxy. Both of those guys have spent significant time with the youth national team at this level. So, but try not to focus too much on and overhype a little bit, but I would say those guys have done quite well overall.
Something for people to watch out for, a little Midwest love, a little West Coast. So get it all involved as the team heads down to Costa Rica. Good luck that first game, as Ali mentioned, against Saudi Arabia. Costa Rica, the hosts, and then Canada, the other team. All 38 members of Concacaf plus Saudi Arabia are in this competition, set in different zones, and then the roadmap is set out there into the semifinals and then potentially the final. So we're going to be watching from afar. We're going to be cheering. We're excited for it. Good luck. Tell your team we said the same, and hopefully we'll have you on at some point to celebrate a championship.
Yeah, I hope so. First step is to qualify, and then we see from there. But yeah, got to finish top 2.
There we go. Good luck, Coach. Appreciate it. Take care of my Philly Union guy, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Timoni as well. Hey, he scored in the final, won the U-15 championship for MLS Next. So yeah, he's another one for sure.
A lot to be excited about. So good luck down there, and we'll see you again soon.
Yes, thank you guys.
Well, thank you so much to Ross for taking the time. Excited to cheer for this team at the Concacaf Championships. We've learned a lot about a lot of different teams over the last few weeks. We have talked extended national teams, beach soccer, covering the Vermont Green and Hickory FC in the lower divisions, and now the U-15 national team. Ale, there's a lot of soccer out there. There's a lot to take in, but I think that's why we have this show, to try and keep everyone up to speed.
I love it, and that's a beautiful part of living in this country. It's so big, but the sport continues to grow, and to see teams of this stature, in these communities is fantastic for all they're done, and congratulations to all involved.
We've got a lot of big shows scheduled coming up for you, some big-time interviews across the U.S. soccer sphere, of course, some games that have been announced for the fall that we were going to start leading into, some incredible ceremonies that are around the corner for some U.S. women's national team legends, some crucial games for the U.S. men's national team, and much, much more. So follow us on all your social media platforms. You can, of course, listen to us wherever you get your podcast. Share it with a friend, share it with another fan, and we'll talk to you again soon here on the U.S. Soccer Podcast.